for the Shop Report with
Barbershop Jay.
What up, sports fans? Welcome to the Shop Report. I'm Barbershop Jay. I'll be your host for the day. Here's what's happening. If you're up and around, you're out and about, and you want to give us a shout, that number to call is area code 267-687-0026. Once again, that number to call is area code 267-687-0026. As always, the Shop Report is now being powered by none other than the folks, or should I say the fine folks over at Rocket Digital Media, the one-stop shop for all your digital marketing needs. Look them up on Facebook at RDM Detroit. That's RDM Detroit. Or you can go to their website, rocketdigital.net. That's ROCKIT digital.net, and tell them BSJ sent you. Joining us on the P program today is my cat from up north, Joey James, a.k.a. Double J. Tell the people what you say.
I'm reporting live from the beautiful Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I am looking forward to crushing these topics and our resident cowboy in Kettle, Lil Jerry.
Oh, Lord have mercy. That's why I should hit the toilet. That was a toilet flush right there. And on the other side of the ledger, we got my man from the CO alum bus, D Gully, with us. What's the deal, son? Again? Really? Seriously? Unbelievable. Unfortunately, to all the listeners out there, my man, Brother Rich, at Be Rich, you all know I start the intro and introductions off with him. He, for whatever reason, is not with us today. I'm looking at the call screen here. I was hoping that he would be joined us by now. I pray that everything is all right with him and his fam and the whole situation is going on out there in COVID, California. But again, if Brother Rich does join us at some time here later on as we go throughout the show, I will, of course, make my normal and as usual introductions. All right, this first one comes to us from none other than the National Basketball Association. Now, I had wanted to get to this last week, but as you all know, there were so many options to choose from when it came to putting together the show topics. We had to put this one and the other one we have from the National Basketball Association on the back burner for this week's Shopisode. And the thing is, why Dr. J, or I guess this is the question, why Dr. J and Bird didn't get along. And in parentheses, in quotes, I don't care if it's your mother, you're not supposed to get along. This is from Basketball Network. If y'all not familiar with Basketball Network, I suggest you please do get familiar with it. One of the most accurate, on-point basketball reference sites, articles, and whatnot that's out there. You know what I mean? You talking about fact-checking? They don't do some truths. They do absolute truths. The Basketball Network. Yep, I'm giving them a shout out right here today for this article in particular. Now, you all know what I'm going to do here, and what I'm getting ready to do right now is, of course, read to you all from the Basketball Network the article that goes along with the caption I just read, why Dr. J and Bird didn't get along. Oh, and we got my man from the NYC, a.k.a. Rucker Park, Brother Rich, decided to join us today. Bro, Rich, what's happening, man?
Well, first, I want to apologize to all of the listeners of this wonderful platform and program. I was a little held up today with some family responsibilities. And Barbershop, with all his family in Dallas, he's quarantining with his family in Dallas. But I'm with my family at this present time, and I'm being ridiculed for having to handle a family business. But nevertheless, we're humbled to be on this wonderful show with you and all of our additional guests and hosts. All the wonderful listeners.
Okay, first of all,
rock and roll with,
matter of
fact, have y'all paid Dak Prescott yet? Pay Dak Prescott, and then we can talk. Yes, sir.
That's all I ever said from the beginning. I can't believe this. You and Double J, y'all just, you know what? Y'all like thing one and thing two. Y'all need medical attention. Seriously, I'm going to call somebody. I know a couple of people in the medical field. I'm I'm gonna get him down there and check y'all out for a minute. See what I'm saying? What's going on in cerebral cortex, vortex? Because I don't know what's with the rest of this text. But that's all I ever said from the beginning. I asked the question many eons shows ago. I said, is the NFC East the toughest division in football? And from that was born Little Jerry, the teapot, the kettle, and Dallas, and you know what I'm saying, the horses, and all that other stuff. That's you and Double J just took it and ran with it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, got you. But can I get to the first topic for the day, for the show for the day, or no? Maybe.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'm so glad I got your permissionaries. Anywho, I started off, of course, again, this is from Basketball Network. If you're not familiar with Basketball Network, Brother Rich, please familiarize yourself with them. They are accurate when it comes to putting out basketball information. But the title of this article that I'm about to read to you all, of course, is Why Dr. J and Bird Didn't Get Along. And in, I want to say parentheses, but in quote, it said, I don't care if it's your mother, you're not supposed to get along. Now, let me dive into this. The person who wrote the article, Stephen Beslick is the author of this article, written, of course, July 24th this year, 2020. He says, I don't care how they explain it. The NBA is too soft. Players hugging and planning to play Fortnite after a game is just wrong. Yes, unlike players in the past, you won't see as many guys crossing the line sometimes. But if the cost of a more competitive, at times antagonistic NBA is crossing the lines, I'm all for it. And I got Larry Bird and Dr. J on my side. Can we please give Mr. Stephen Beslick a round of applause? My man. Have we not been saying something similar? So we not hating, right? We can't be hating because Mr. Beslick, he apparently seems to, well, you know how they say great minds think alike. But anywho, he goes on to say, I don't know why Google won't let me, bear with me here. Yeah, stop seeing this ad. Why don't I want to see this ad? Gee, my knees. Okay, anyway. It's a switch from what guys like Allen Iverson and Kobe Bryant were doing in the 2000s when the game was much more ISO-based. Perimeter-oriented I didn't even see this part. He really laid it out. Perimeter-oriented game has almost completely eliminated the art of the low post scoring. Oh my, who that sound like? Who does this sound like? Anyway,
Barbershop J.
The species that dominated the league in the 90s is nearing extinction. Who that sound like? Brother Rich and Double J, right? As their only true representative in the NBA today might be Joel Embiid. That's interesting. When I say the league is changing socially wise, hear him out now, I'm talking players being able to speak up on different issues. And not only being able to do it, but actually wanting to do it. I mean, every player in the Orlando bubble has the opportunity to have some sort of a social justice message on the back of their jerseys. It just goes to show how the NBA is encouraging players to speak up. But to your point, Brother Rich, when we had our texting, I want you to, if you know what I'm talking about here, I want you to remember that. And then I want you to, later on we come back, I want you to mention what you mentioned about that. Okay, got you. In terms of individuals actually wanting to speak up, the NBA has also made a huge leap forward in that sense. You're only as good as your leader. And when your leader is LeBron James, the most socially involved basketball player we've ever seen, I don't know about all that, guys will be encouraged to follow his lead. Michael Jordan was in the same position, but was never as involved as James is. I don't know if I could argue that. It may be down to the character that MJ is, but the fact is you didn't hear him talking about stuff outside of basketball. You can't argue that either. He was the tone setter, and he'd set the tone of not being socially involved. Most emulated him, with few exceptions, of course, Craig Hodges, for example. No one was stopping that guy from speaking up, and we all know the situation with Craig Hodges. I don't know if I sent you all the video, but he did an interview recently with Vlad TV on Vlad TV. Oh, my goodness, Craig Hodges went all the way in. But anyway, or I don't, you might have sent that to me, Brother Rich. But anyway, many would argue that in terms of relationships between players, The NBA has changed for the worse. Oh, my gosh. Who did that sound like? Bransketball? Excuse me, today, BA? Excuse me. Anyway, it feels that the league has become too friendly. Such a shift in a competitive environment is an oxymoron in and of itself, and many are critical of it. I'm many. Former players seem to be most vocal about the new direction of the NBA, as they simply can't wrap their heads around it. I'm one of them people too. Now, how players used to treat each other may be the other extreme. There wasn't anything friendly about it. In fact, it was hostile. And on a side note, Dr. J and Bird actually did kind of like each other, but I'll read further and you'll see why this article was titled as it was titled. In fact, it was hostile. The environment where players want to rip each other's throats out is the opposite side of the spectrum, and it's something the league doesn't want to get back to. But a healthy amount of competitiveness is good for the sport. Not everybody has to get along. Oh, my gosh. Julius Erving best described the route NBA players have to embark on when he talked about his relationship with Larry Bird. It may be the pattern for a new generation to follow, as it seems like the perfect balance between being competitive and respectful towards other players. This is Dr. J. The irony is we did get along. It's just that when somebody plays for Boston and somebody else plays for Philly, if you get on the court and play with one another, I don't care if it's your mother, you're not supposed to get along. I read further. The NBA changing is inevitable. A decade or two from now, the league will be in a whole nother state, and that's fine. However, not all changes imply improvement. Let me repeat that again. Not all changes imply improvement. And let me stop right there for a second for another sidebar. I've constantly had conversations and continue to have conversations about this generic bleepity bleep statement. The game has changed. I said that's overstating the obvious. The question is, has it changed for the better? The game has evolved. Anybody that uses that line or makes that statement or says that comment has no clue what the word or term evolve or the definition of. Excuse me. How do you see these is totally up to you. Here's my take on the whole situation. Not mine, but the author of this article. He said, I would love NBA basketball not to be so one-dimensional and dependent upon shooting. Oh, my gosh, who else do that sound like? Oh, anyway, I love NBA players speaking up on social issues. I would love the players to stop being so doggone friendly. Use Dr. J's example. Hello, guys. Like I said, it's a perfect balance. That being said, all we can do now is wait. But one thing's for sure, it won't always be like this. That's the beauty of the NBA. It's a forever changing mechanism. End quote. Brother Rich, I'll let you go first. What say you?
Well, Jay, we've had this conversation. I would dare say this is the basis of this program, and that is to discuss what the game used to be and what it has appeared to become nowadays. And what is that? A game that is no longer about a game. It's about branding. It's about, we can't, unfortunately, after the Malice in the Palace, we can't have any more competitive, aggressive energy on the court. We need to worry about these sponsors. We need to worry about the suburban moms sitting their kids down in front of the television to watch basketball and wanting to sell them the jersey of their favorite player and their favorite team. And we can't have any guys that are looked at as thugs and hooligans, and we can't have the Allen Iversons anymore. So let's make them rich and give them a lot of money and make them corporate guys. And so what you see is the NBA is more focused on fashion and friendships and who likes who and who doesn't like who and who's going to team up. And like we're just kids in high school playing. It's still that kind of game, but it's now a corporatized game. And you coined the phrase that it's the today be it. Well, that's what it is. It's the today be it. This is what we have today. So when we say the game has changed, or when people say the game has changed, that's what they're talking about. And I like how you said it, but has it changed for the better? Well, I think we know the answer to that. So we keep going.
Yeah. But then again, okay, so if you say we know the answer to that, Brother Rich, apparently not everybody does. Why are these fans acting like because their favorite player is doing it now that no other player in the history of the game since the game's inception could ever do anything close to?
Well,
I mean, again, yeah, please, explain that to me.
Well, we're creatures of whatever CNN or ESPN or ABC or NBC tells us is hot right now. So if they tell us that whoever's playing today is the greatest that ever did it, we don't. Malcolm X used to talk about history, and he said that history is what a true seeker of knowledge goes after because it rewards the researcher. But we're not historians of the game. The difference between Mike Tyson as a fighter is that he was also a historian of the game. He was not just a guy going in it. He understood something about the fight game. True. Kobe Bryant, God rest his beautiful soul, was a student of the game. Jordan was a student. These were students of the game. Well, today you don't have, not so much. You got to be a student of AAU. You have to come up with the right AAU team, have the right AAU coach, the right AAU sponsor, play with the right set of people, get the right contract, the right jersey. You go into the league to make the right kind of money, to live in the right kind of house, to go to the right kind of strip club, to get the right kind of girls. That's what we're doing now, the right kind of car.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Double J, your thoughts, man, on Mr. Blessig's article and Dr. J and Bird and why they didn't get along. Not off the court, obviously, but on the court, they couldn't stand each other. And no offense, literally, obviously, to one another's mother, but even if it's your mama, come out here when I got this pill in my hand, Ma, you gonna get disrespected. I love you, but you about to be disrespected. Have your say, Double J.
Absolutely. And so, there's a few things I want to point out. We've, on this program, specifically pointed out the AAU culture, where these kids have played with and or against each other, either by teams or in invitational camps, where the relationships they've established are far more deep than in decades past. However, we are all products of the NBA in the 80s and 90s. And, nobody was untouchable. Obviously, we've seen documentaries on the Jordan rules. We've seen Chris Childs give a two-piece in fries to Kobe Bryant. And so the way that we approach the game as a whole is miraculously different, and it's a travesty. And here's why. So David Stern, of course, wanted to protect his superstar because it did elevate the league into, propel it into arguably the first or second spot in nationally when it came to Michael Jordan. Additionally, as Brother Rich pointed out, with some of the on-court and off-court, whether that was the tire and such, the next move that the league made came to clean up, so to speak, how the image of the players themselves. That's all fine and dandy. However, what these players are suggesting, and this is a perfect example of that, is you can be the best of friends, but when it comes to what, when you step foot on that court, you are a dog. You are there to win. And by any means, does not matter who is standing in your way, you are going to absolutely give everything you have to destroy them. And that's what's being lost here. Sure, the game has evolved to a more perimeter base, but the competitive level, there are few and far between. And unfortunately, the bad boys, so to speak, in today's game are media members like Kendrick Perkins, somebody that's not even on an active roster. And it's echoed by moves such as my own Detroit Pistons attempting to bring in J. Cole, whether he deserves the opportunity or not. I will never take that away from someone. But instead of, countless individuals that have spent the last 20-plus years in the sport itself and in the game itself, we're going to bring in this celebrity who's best known for things outside of the game of basketball, because it's becoming WWE. It's becoming entertainment, not competitive athletics.
Yeah, and that's so interesting. I hadn't intended to bring that up, but I'm glad you did, Double J. I'm with you. If J. Cole can play, J. Cole can play, because Master P could play. But it's a circus. It's a circus, and at what point is the attention going to be so focused on the circus that we lose complete sight of what the substance should be? Now, how would that be good for the game? Because as Brother Rich pointed out...
Jay, I'm going to interrupt.
Go ahead.
The pace that we're on in a decade from now, it is not too far out of the stretch of the imagination that we're going to be playing rock and jock basketball from way back in the MVP.
Dang. That's wow. I've never seen any footage of J. Cole prior to high school or anything. I mean, just off the top of your head, you might know a little bit more about it than I do. Do you think he can play? Double J?
Well, from what I've seen, he's investing the time. And truthfully, Carmelo Anthony has made a return, but I'm seeing J. Cole spending as much time, if not more. And this is also, this is a part of the bigger problem here. It's not J. Cole getting the opportunity. It's him having the desire and the will to do the best he can to give himself the opportunity.
To put the work in.
Meanwhile, we're watching these guys that, again, have been coddled for the last decade. They're reclassifying to better suit their own brand, as Brother Rich pointed out. They're more concerned about who's following who on social media.
Yeah.
And again, I will never speak out against social justice causes, because those are always worth it. But when it comes to the product on the floor itself, it is becoming entertainment, not sport.
Good stuff. Gully, what say you, man, about this article by Mr. Blisek? Because he, in it, said some of the things that we've been saying, but this is going to be a constant, I think, because this is where the game is going. And even with the restart or the start back up or whatever you want to call it, we're seeing evidence of the things that constantly keep showing themselves, the things that are warts. To me, people say, you just talk about it ad nauseum. Well, stop doing it. If you stop doing it, won't be nothing for me to talk about. What say you, Gully?
The competitive nature of the NBA that I grew up watching as a kid, that you grew up watching in your youth, that Brother Rich grew up watching, that Double J grew up watching, was there because you had that fierce, almost rivalry or almost professional dislike of your opponent. And it was healthy because all it did was manifest itself in you playing your hardest with you and your guys and your team to try to win, therefore giving the fans a much more enthralling, thrilling matchup to watch. This is gone. Every game looks like practice. I wish we could watch some of the practices of our heroes of yesteryear. Double J, you brought up, you said it's like the WWE. And to that, I'm going to definitely disagree with you. Growing up watching the WWE, you did not know that Shawn Michaels and Scott Hall or Razor Ramon were best friends. because you've seen the ladder match in 1995, and I'm not going to slam a ladder on my friend in a ring to try to win a title.
I think he's speaking to. I think he.
Yeah,
I think
this isn't. We're not talking the Attitude Era.
Right.
We're not talking
No.
90,
Any era.
No.
Any era of professional sports. You don't know what guys travel in the cars together. The point is, the veil of competitive nature of angst against your opposition was there. Even if that was even what I mentioned, actually was before the Attitude Era. But the point is, when the lights were on and the cameras were facing you and the fans were there, you thought guys hated each other, or you, at the very least, even if they didn't hate each other, there was something about it that personally they wanted to succeed. They wanted to succeed and were willing to do anything
in the roles that they played.
In the role that they played, and then behind the curtains, the banana boat. See, banana boat pictures never. I don't remember those showing up in the 80s and 90s. The one thing that I do remember is I did know that Isaiah Thomas and Magic Johnson were like best friends. Well, you couldn't tell in the 87 to 88 NBA Finals or 88 to 89 NBA Finals, and you shouldn't have.
Yeah, well, I tell you what though, what finals was that though? They kissed each other beforehand, or on the cheek, or however that went. You know, come swah. And then after that, they was trying to kill each other.
Not even 20 minutes later, right?
Yeah.
They was at each other's throats. Yeah.
But I get what Double J is saying though, in terms of the pageantry. You know what I mean? This has become the pageantry of the WWE or the WWF. I mean, I wasn't really big into wrestling like you were, Gully. You know what I mean? I knew who Junkyard Dog and all them guys were. But I get Double J's point, but I understand yours as well. You know what I'm saying? But go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
I'm sorry. My point overall is, it seems like I think there was some misinformation, perhaps. That competitive edge exists in every other professional sport aside from basketball today. Okay, just today, even during the restart, even during quarantine, I watched highlights of a hockey match that had a fight involved. Okay, why is it appropriate in hockey but not in basketball? That's another subject for another matter. But the idea of it is that sort of competitive nature should still exist. It's there in basketball. It's there in baseball. It's there in football for sure. The fact that it is not there in the NBA is the symptoms of why it's not there in the NBA is a symptom of overall the apathy toward the game. Real quick too, you brought up J. Cole, who's, by the way, my top two, depending on which day of the week, depending on which side of the pillow I wake up.
Yeah, I got a hip hop show in the works. I've been meaning to put together for the last 22 years. Yeah. We got to get this out because RB at the job. He been oh my gosh, he all over my case about hip hop, Eminem, and top 10 and so on and so forth. But go ahead, finish. I'm just letting the people out there know we putting together a hip hop show.
I'll throw it back to you. J. Cole and his aspirations to get into the league are on point, if not superior, to Master P. He forfeited, if you will, an opportunity to play at St. John's because his motivation to be in hip hop was much stronger. Was just stronger for him.
Okay, so he do got a hoop background.
He's got a hoop background.
I didn't know that.
He is official, and the fact that he's putting the concentrated effort in to make it to the league, the difference between Master P's era and J. Cole's era is speaking to the problem that we have. The path of opposition around him is not nearly there. So a
path of least resistance
could probably make it to the league versus what happened when Master P was trying to come up and when Kobe Bryant and Jordan was still around and you had T-Mac and Vince Carter. You had guys, you had true dogs about it that were probably going to be very territorial about a guy in another industry, essentially perhaps maybe using the idea of his former greatness and his star power to forge a path into the league. It wasn't really, I don't think it was taken too well, professionally speaking. There wasn't no disrespect, I don't think, from NBA players to a guy like Master P. But the fact is, we came up doing this, and just because you P, I make them say, I got a no limit chain too. I can't make this easy for you. J. Cole don't seem to have that issue. It's all up to him.
That's why I said the path of least resistance or the degree of difficulty. My goodness, how many times have we had this discussion on this topic, but maybe to a different degree, if you will, for lack of a better word or term, and I've said those words. When we talked about that comparison thing, about these guys now versus them guys then, the degree of difficulty is not the same now as it was then. So therefore, how can you sit at the table next to me and get the same grade as me or be even compared to me? That's ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous. Back then, in my era, the era that I got to see, I can't speak for the Bill Russell and some of the era and all of them guys before I got a chance to really understand what I was seeing or didn't get to see, but from the era that I saw, for the most part, defenses made offenses work to score. How many times in the late 90s, even in the early 2000s, did you see, regardless of what team it was, Western Conference, Eastern Conference, we know the Eastern Conference was a little tougher than the Western Conference back then. The Western Conference has always kind of been that run and shoot type of deal. But even still, from an offensive standpoint, if nothing else, from an offensive standpoint, since everybody wanted to register and laud the PPG and put up these stat comparisons to determine if a guy's better than the other guy, which is ludicrous too. Please, anybody on this panel right now and anybody out there listening, if you see me in the street, I want you to explain to me or tell me how often in the today BA do you see, from an offensive standpoint again, wasted offensive possessions compared to then? There are too many wasted possessions on offense now than there were in the early 2000s. Forget the mid-'80s and the 90s completely. I'm talking about in the early 2000s. And then everybody want to poo-poo on Kobe. Kobe was man, I tell you what, the dude didn't waste no offensive possessions. If you look at the restart, pick a game in the restart. Lakers, Clippers, all of them. I guarantee you don't see 3 or 4 or 5 minute stretches that these dudes ain't scoring. They just jacking up shots. But I digress. I digress. Last point I want to make on this.
I don't think you're digressing. I think you're making the absolute case. This is what we're talking about, Jay. We're talking about a league that has gone away from
the fundamentals.
What we grew up watching. And so let's be real about it. The league is corporate now, and that's what it is. Everyone has touched on some element of that, but that's the reality of it. That whether it's a showmanship league, whether it's a league that shows itself to be some up-to-date, hyped-up version of the WWF or whatever we want to look at it as. The reality is, and I thought that Gully's point was profound in that, man, at least when you're growing up watching WWF, at least he believed it. He's saying at least we believe it. Today, it's a well-known thing that the NBA is probably fixed. That these games are run by the corporate bosses in New York. You have players openly saying that the league don't want this or the league don't want that. We know we're watching this now. We're watching these gentlemen put on names on their jerseys that, by the way, we're going to get back to that again, that these are approved names. The league had to approve. So let's stop this stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. So I guess more so than I'm speaking more so to the fan, the Today BA fan, who wants to come and search me out to have a debate. I said, whatever claim you're making is baseless. Because if you're going to sit here again, you all will be surprised how many people actually stop me. And I ain't saying I'm famous or nothing like that, but I'm pretty well known around the city for having had sports debate throughout the years. You know what I'm saying? And I guess people think it's to some degree, I don't know, making a mark or whatever if they get Barbershop Jay in a debate. Yeah, well, you think such and I said, man, seriously? You making this claim. You done made this ambiguous statement, this broad statement. He better than him. I say, based on what? Because he averaged such and such point per game, and he said, I said, really? You really came from all the way over there to over here and wasted your time on this nonsense, and they actually tried to debate me on it, try to validate the nonsense. This is unbelievable. And I crack their head all the time with the kind of things that we discuss on this program. I'm not killing y'all's game today, but let's call it for what it is. Stop trying to act like it was that when it ain't. You all don't understand what I mean by when I say when it was that. You know what I'm trying to say?
Fact.
This ain't that. So stop trying to make it so. That's what I'm saying to these today BA basketball fans. Yeah, you can't compare these dudes to them dudes in no shape, form, or fashion. Again, especially when we talk about this guy as a two-way player. That used to be a standard. Now y'all got a special name for it? That just goes to show you how rare it is in the game today. Man, miss me with that. But the one last point I wanted to make on this article. When I was reading it from the computer here, I couldn't see the first two sentences. But this guy speaks in particular, he says the shift. So he points out that there is a shift. He said, but the obvious shift in today's game is the game is more and more gravitating towards the three-point line. So are we really trying to have a discussion about a guy who come down and hoist the ball up 1-on-5, being better than Drazen Petrovic? Or Dale Curry? Or Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf? When they try to, quote-unquote, say who's a better shooter? And don't get it... Another sidebar right quick. I will be putting out the videos.
Craig Hodges.
Craig Hodges. Yeah, come on. Or Mitch Richmond or Chuck the Rifleman. Anyway, I will be putting a video out soon just to let y'all know, just another sidebar here right quick, about this whole Bomani Jones calling Steph Curry a system player. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. Better late than never, but it's coming. But anyway. That he's saying the game, the obvious shift is the three-point line. Man, dudes ain't going down. Listen, and I'm going to use football as an analogy before we go into the next topic here for the program. I don't care how, the skill positions, the wide receivers, the running backs, the tight end, yeah, them guys get all the fantasy points, and they definitely are needed. But you cannot tell me, regardless of the era, especially in this era, if the game is true to itself, the game is won and lost in the trenches. The NBA version of that, you have to utilize some sort of offense to create opportunities in and around the paint. How many games and guys do you see in these games try to win or end the game on a jump shot nowadays? Where's Pete Carrill at when you need him? Or Tex Winter? Or Lenny Wilkins even? Okay. Yeah. If you're up and around, you're out and about, and you want to give us a shout, that number to call is area code 267-687-0026. Once again, that number to call is area code 267-687-0026. All right. And our other entree for the day from the National Basketball Association, my man, Jalen Rose. Again, this is one of the other topics from last week. I couldn't decide if we wanted to talk about it then. I said, you got to eat something now, save some for later. But this, of course, is talking about everybody's favorite team in the bubble, and that is the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, Brother Richard, I know you a Los Angeles Lakers fan from way back in the day, so this ain't for you because you're not fair weather. This is for them fair weather ones. My man Jalen Rose, and I quote, said, if you think that the Lakers will not be a playoff team without LeBron James, that's really saying what you feel about Anthony Davis. Each time LeBron has won a championship, he's been on a super team. Double J, we start with you. What do you say? Is Jalen lying, fabricating, making up stuff, or what? What is he doing? Or is he telling the truth? Because, again, there's no such thing as some truths. It's absolute truth or it's not. I'll let you boy.
Well, if we were in the court of law, it would be the whole truth and so help you God. And Jalen, a Southwest Detroit guy himself, tells no lie. As Brother Rich would say, it's fact. Let's take a look 2 games ago when Toronto housed the Lakers.
Oh, my
which
goodness.
They've done, I think everybody's aware now, for quite some time. However, it was not LeBron James who had a bad night. That was not Nick Nurse's game plan. It was Anthony Davis who had the bad night. And they didn't have a shot. That tells you absolutely everything you need to know. Look at the last game that was played. Anthony Davis went off.
Yes,
and you
he
know
did.
What? Utah never stood a chance after that.
Yes, he did. The game was over in the third quarter.
This has been LeBron's MO since 2008 when the Pistons, had really said, allow him to score as much as he can, we'll shut out everybody else. The difference is he wanted to distribute the ball and be the secondary option. No different, same rules apply in Miami, same rules apply here. But now, unfortunately, Father Time has caught up to him where he is a dynamic, an incredible athlete, a once-in-a-generation athlete. However, he is no longer the best player in the world.
Don't say that. Don't say that in Cleveland.
Unfortunately, what Jalen is emphasizing is what's being on display night after night. If you're a basketball head, you're seeing this yourself. It's AD that opens up for LeBron, not LeBron opening up for AD.
And you know what, though? I think – go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, look, they're both – LeBron needs AD. LeBron, his entire career, has said, as much of Batman as I want to be, I have to have a Robin. And it is apparent now, and again, I hold this specifically to his age, that unfortunately he himself has become Robin. And that's not to discredit him at all, but what Jalen is emphasizing is exactly that. If you are going to say LeBron is great and the Lakers can do this, it is because you're that confident in Anthony Davis.
And you know what? To Jalen's point as well, you use the word to discredit. That's my biggest issue, probably my only issue. I wish people would stop discrediting, quote unquote, the help. They won't let you mention Michael Jordan without Scottie Pippen. How dare you? But if you mention that guy, they forget that he had help too. This is what I don't understand. That's kind of bass backwards. Well, one, do as I say and not as I do. One is good. This is good for him, but it ain't good for you. Stop discrediting the help. Because guess what? We all know, should this thing not work out, we all know who's going to get the blame, right? Oh, okay. Brother Richard, have your say.
Jay, this is always a touchy subject for me because I got to say this, and you know this. I'm in a funny place with Bron because as an individual, I love LeBron James. I think he's a tremendous individual. I happen to know that he's a tremendous individual. I love him and what he's done. I have tremendous respect for Rich Paul, Maverick Carter. I have a tremendous respect for their team. They've done a Randy Mims. They've done a wonderful job. They're fantastic, developed, successful, young black men, entrepreneurs in their own right, leaders in their own right. Here's the issue as it relates to this particular topic. I am a Kobe Bryant fan, and I think that needs to be said as well. And having been a fan of Kobe Bryant's basketball game, it is very difficult for me to look at basketball as it's played by somebody with LeBron James' skill set, if you want to call it that. I don't particularly know what that is, but with that particular set of gifts, It's to watch that and understand that, as Double J pointed out to us, on a nightly display, because he did not have a natural jump shot. He did not have a natural go-to move. In a nightly display, we're seeing now the deterioration of his skill and his deterioration of his physical ability to dominate the game in a physical way. So we are watching in real time the passing, if you will, of the torch. To his credit, I think he's doing it well, in that he's openly trying to pass AD the ball. They're openly trying to make, and you can see them trying to center the offense solely around AD, with everybody else playing a filler role. Bron is able to continue to be Bron because he handles the ball for the team. But nevertheless, of course, Jalen Rose is saying the truth to get to just answer your question. Of course he's telling us. He's telling us what Double J said, what we can see every night. Absolutely, that AD team, he is now the focal point of the Los Angeles Lakers, and any championship hope they have now rests on him. So perhaps we need to have a new King a logo made.
Oh, wow, Brother Rich. Ooh, surprising. Gully, your last word on the subject of the discredit given to Anthony Davis, or the non-credit, or should I say the lack thereof?
You guys, men, elders, have to help me out, especially because it's the Lakers team. What was made of James Worthy's presence when he was drafted to the Lakers and his impact on the last two titles that the Showtime Lakers won?
He had a tremendous impact, and he was always celebrated. James Worthy has been celebrated as one of the key members of what was Showtime Lakers, that Laker edition. Absolutely celebrated. And the thing.
Go ahead, Brother Rich.
The other thing about that we have to remember is that was in fact and indeed a team with Magic leading it. We all understood who was leading it, but James was the closeout guy. He was the go-to guy. He was the guy that was going to get the ball to make that shot in the last. He was going to do that. So he's definitely, and he's so credited with Laker lore that he's today the announcer for the Lakers game in Southern California. So
I'm not
James
surprised.
Worthy's legacy with the Los Angeles Lakers is still.
As was Michael Cooper.
So, right. So it's not hard, perhaps, to concede that maybe the leader might not, in fact, at this stage, the leader might not, in fact, be the most. I can't say most talented, but let's just say, if I say it right, without
the most heralded,
giving all credit to it. Yeah, the most heralded. Right. Where James Worthy was the X factor, was what was needed, considering how complete the team was overall. James Worthy was what was needed to ensure sustained success. Okay, and the finals that they went to and the finals that they won. Right, Magic Johnson was still Magic Johnson, and his place in Lakers lore or on that team has never went anywhere. The problem we have now is, it's weird, man, the type of generation that I come up in, where everything is so binary. It's either yes or no. Okay, so to concede that Anthony Davis is, in fact, the best Laker on the team somehow means that, LeBron ain't no more. I don't necessarily know that that's what Jalen Rose is saying, but that's the problem with giving Anthony Davis his credit. We can't do that anymore. We can't say that Anthony Davis is that guy, but LeBron is still the leader of the team. We can't do it anymore. No one ever could. So it's jarring. So I think the problem is we don't know how to harmony. We don't have harmony anymore in terms of an opinion. You can be good. You can be good here and somebody else be better here, but then there's still balance. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that, like the idea that we always bring every naysayer to Jordan got to bring up Pippen. Like, well, when we going to bring up Anthony Davis and what he means, because I think they were not a playoff team last year without him, and they publicly courted him while they were on the team, and he publicly dismissed the contributions of the players on his team. But we can bring that up. Or when we going to bring up that the most pivotal shot in Cleveland Cavs franchise history came not from LeBron James, but from Kyrie Irving. But when we gonna bring up
Kyrie.
the fact that Dwayne Wade publicly and privately conceded leadership
Thank you.
on a team in order to help
Fact.
Thank you.
cultivate. When we gonna bring that up? So when we can start to come to grips with the fact that being the best can sometimes mean letting the better guy do his thing, and if you really want to be the guy that helps, then let somebody do that. If we can acknowledge it, then we're good. I'm gonna forever be a naysayer of LeBron James being the greatest of all time because of this reason, because of this line of thought.
Brother Richard, you wanted to add something to that?
Fact.
Oh,
Well,
got
that's
you.
fact. Well,
Good.
that's facts again for the listeners.
Oh, okay, got you. And I'll actually close.
But let me say it. I will.
Go ahead.
Because I did have this thought as you were talking, Billy, and that's it. We acknowledge that it's LeBron's league. And the problem in today's world, and as Jay calls it, the today BA, is exactly what you said. Everything is binary. And the reason it is like that is because we are caught up in, Barbershop talks about people catch highlights, and they think they know the game or they know the player. So because if I catch a highlight of this player, we have these highlights on ESPN.
And that says that that's all there is to the player.
And that says absolutely.
The highlight tells the whole story.
Caught up in that. Yeah.
Hey, Barbershop.
So
what
they
did I
are
bring
telling
up?
us who is the player.
Correct. Barbershop. What did I bring up the other day about the subject of this conversation about LeBron James and Kawhi Leonard?
Say it
What did I
again.
bring up about that?
Say it again.
All right. So in the first game back, last Thursday, Lakers met the Clippers. Right. Stat line. I think LeBron finished with 16 points. Okay. He didn't shoot terribly effective. He didn't shoot his typical percentage. He had a pedestrian game. Okay. But if you watched the game, if you actually watched the game, if you're a fan of the game and you spend time watching it versus trying to get the Sports Center highlights so that way you can sound like you know what you're talking about and win debates, you would notice that LeBron James in the clutch, which is something that historically people knock him, he had clutch, timely, smart shot. He actually played great on-ball defense. Two things that LeBron James usually gets knocked for. Most specifically, the last play in regulation for the Clippers to have a chance to shoot and tie. LeBron James went one-on-one, head up against Kawhi Leonard, and then when Kawhi passed the ball to Paul George, LeBron James was able to get in front of him and make the switch and guard Paul George, forcing Paul George to miss a shot.
True that.
And ending the game. He only finished with 16 points. However, when you look at the game and you look at the efficiency in the clutch in those moments, you will start to see that, this is a kind of like what we've been talking about Kawhi Leonard for all this time. It's not a volume, it's timeliness. And so if you can respect what LeBron James did last week versus the best team or the best two players or the two biggest threats, if you will, to the Lakers title this year, then you can start to respect what Kawhi Leonard's been doing his entire career, basically, and you can start to see that these guys are peers. That's if you decide to watch and if you really want to be a fan and know what we missed and what we love or what we used to love about the game.
At the end of the day, my saying is right now what my saying has been all along since this late mid-2000s ushered in this new era of player. Miss me with the highlights. Signature players make signature plays in a signature games, signature moments, which is why, excuse me, to Brother Richard's point, and what I keep trying to point out to people about James Harden, no team with James Harden will ever win a championship.
Fact.
So for all of them people who ranting and raving about how many 40-point games he got, it's funny how it don't serve him well in the game 7 with a 15-point lead. Excuse me, right? Signature players make the signature plays in the signature game's most signature moments. Period. Especially when them signature games come in the playoffs. Right? Good stuff, fellas, as always. And on that note, it's been fun, but we got to run. We appreciate y'all for listening. Don't forget to check us out right here on the Spreaker.com network. You go to the search box and you type in the Shop Report. Oh, and while you're there, please give us subscribe and 2-3 exclamation marks. Or you can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast and give us a follow. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as dropping us your comments, suggestions via email, theshopreport365@gmail.com. And you can also check out our website, theshopreport.com. And if that don't work, Google it. For my mans, Be Rich, Double J, and Gully, and all those who follow and support us, we say thank you. And as always, the Shop Report is brought to you by RocketDigital.net. That's right. Check them out, my man Double J and his folks over at RDM Detroit. And tell them Barbershop J sent you. Oh, and by the way, I am Jay. And you've been listening to the Shop Report. And remember, the next time y'all want to know what's really going on, man, come to the shop. Walk-ins are always welcome. Holla!